And they're really good at marketing. They're really creative people. It's a cool Minnesota business that celebrates Minnesota sports themes. You can buy double-sided flags to hang outside your house. They have the knickknacks, the beer fridge stickers, Minneapolis Miracle artwork, Seven Heaven artwork, stuff you can stick on your wall. Hockey stick bottle openers. Go to sodastick.com, check out everything they have, and remember, September 15th, Saturday, 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock, Halls Island, Minnesota, their pop-up shop and autumn brew review. So we have a Twitter question. We have a few Twitter questions on a very interesting topic, and that is Cat's contract. It is still not signed. What does that mean?
It means that there's still question marks about how this thing is going to go forward. It means that there are still signs that Karl Anthony Towns is not the happiest camper with how things are going, and it's there's no diminishing it right now. I mean, we're a couple of weeks away from less than 2 weeks away from media day and camp's opening, and your young star, the guy who you need to carry you through the next 5 to 10 years of this franchise hasn't signed his contract. And last year Andrew Wiggins was in the similar boat. We knew what his issues were. He was working through an agent change and kind of starting to launch his own thing, and it didn't really make a lot of sense what he was doing, but at least we knew the reasons, and we also knew that this was eventually going to get done.
And the other thing is Andrew just might have slept for a month or something.
That's very possible. And yes, and I mean, bottom line, there are some people that wondered if that was the right thing to do or not. Rightfully so. With Cat, you have to give him all this money. Everyone knows it. And now it's more of a situation of some angst or some nervousness about what is he going to do? How far is he going to take this? And what is it going to take to get him to be willing to sign a 5-year deal and just go forward here? And so until you see him put the pen to paper and until they make an announcement, you're going to have to assume that things are not peachy right now. And in doing some reporting on it, I don't think that everything is great. And again, I believe that the Timberwolves internally think that, yes, he's eventually going to sign this. It's too much money. Nobody turns this down. And so there's confidence from the organization standpoint that eventually they'll come together, they'll figure this out, and everything will be fine. And that totally could be the case. But until that absolutely happens, you have to ask these questions, and you have to be wondering about what the heck is going on. Now, the kind of the backdrop of all of this is none of the Wolves have seen each other for months. You see these teams that go to the Bahamas together, that meet in LA and work out together, that are getting into camps early, that are really kind of trying to get the bonding and the team aspect of things down right now. And they're not, that has not happened with the Timberwolves at all. Wiggins, Butler, Towns, all these guys are scattered all over the place, and they just haven't seen each other. And so, that again speaks to sort of this undercurrent of question marks about the chemistry, about how these guys feel about each other, and their willingness to team up and really go together in the Western Conference. I mean, right now, the people who have come in early for camp right now are the 2 rookies who essentially have to be here and have nothing else to do, and then you have Anthony Tolliver, whose kids are in school here, but he would be here anyway. He's a good pro. He's a good vet. He gets in early and wants to do this stuff. Jeff Teague just got in. Tyus lives here. Everyone else, they're not here. And so, there's all of these signs that have been happening all summer long that point to these issues. I mean, in Las Vegas, every team that was there had a star player come through, sit at courtside, watch their summer league team, maybe work out with them at a practice or something. No one with the Wolves came except for Anthony Tolliver. So, I mean, you don't want to put too much into that and too much stock into it, but also you have to acknowledge that this is happening.
Yeah.
That that and so that the cat kind of negotiations are part of that. And okay, how do they bring this whole thing together? That's their big part, and getting Cat signed and making sure that he's happy with things is part of that process and a major part of it. And until all of that happens, there's always going to be this wondering about what's happening here and where are they really going.
And that is all happening, and it's reality. I mean, listen, there's a level of rumor that it's hard to almost talk about, because you're talking about relationships, you're talking about secondhand sources, but it's reached critical mass where we know at the very best, we know there's awkwardness in the locker room, and we've heard some reports, and we've had some conversations indicate it has been worse than awkward at times. That is all on the table, and so is this. The Timberwolves are making an effort to kind of reach out and say, hey, Tom Thibodeau is a nice guy. He's an interesting guy. And I've had at least 3 long conversations with him in the last month where we just sat down and shot the breeze. And he doesn't get into the Timberwolves issues. It's just been more about other stuff. And it's been fun. It's been fun to talk basketball with Tibbs and other stuff. He's a guy who loves living in the Twin Cities. He walks around Lake Calhoun. He loves local restaurants. He's a good guy when you're not talking about basketball. The organization has kind of made it known, hey, we want to be accessible to you guys. We want to talk to you guys. But here's the difficult part of all that. And I always say, if I ran, this is no danger of this happening, but if I ran a professional sports franchise, I would make everybody who works there go take a journalism class. Because so many people so many intelligent, high achievers don't have any idea what we actually do. Or they think everything is us or them. Either you're on our side or you're not. You're with us or you're against us. And it's our job to not be with you or against you.
Right.
It's our job to kind of say, here's our, I don't like the word objective, but here's our here's our professional look at what's going on. So I appreciate that they've been very friendly. I enjoyed my conversations with Tibbs. But there's something there, and we have to write about it.
Yeah, that's the bottom line is that we have to be based in fact. And there are journalists out there or members of the media or however you want to dictate
quasi-journalists,
that will kind of take liberties and deal in hyperbole and all of these things to get clicks and to get attention and so there absolutely are those kinds of people in our business that sort of sully the waters. I think that for us, their efforts have been appreciated, because I think the more that both sides, if you want to call them that, view each other as human beings and as person and get to know them and build some sort of rapport, there's more understanding. And so I think that some of the issues from the first 2 years of the regime is there's not a level of understanding on either side, because there hasn't been the communication that is necessary. And kind of spinning off of that, the media end of it is important, and managing messages and sort of dealing with brush fires and things is an important thing. But I think more important is, okay, if you make these efforts with the media, that's good, but make the efforts with the people that you work with every single day. That, I think, has fostered more of the, whatever you want to call it, tension than anything else. If people internally are frustrated or feel like they don't have a say in things or are not included or things like that leads to disenchantment, and that contributes to an atmosphere and environment that trickles down to us, because we always hear from people who are unhappy. I mean, that's the nature of the business. Mm-hmm. And again, but also building off of their efforts to be a little bit more accessible, to have a little bit more of a rapport with media. I do think that what you hear behind the scenes is that Tibbs has been doing that a lot this year with this summer with the people internally as well. And so those are important steps that needed to be taken to sort of get people on board and moving in the right direction a little bit more. So we'll see. The key for them is going to be sustaining that once the season begins, and once Tibbs gets into the grind, and once Scott Layden gets into the grind of looking at practice and evaluating film and looking at prospects and all of these things. It's a hard job to do, but that's going to be the key for them if they're going to restore a sense of unity within the organization, with the players, with support staff, with business side, with all of those things. That's what they have to do, and the efforts have been made, and those are appreciated, and we just hope that kind of stuff continues to go forward, because it can only help them.
Absolutely.
It's if you alienate or if you isolate, that's just going to be a problem going forward, and would make if there is a fall, it would make it a lot harder.
Yep. Let's buzz through some Twitter questions. Darren Walker, people are always ranking baseball parks. What's the best, worst NBA arenas? Where in the NBA do you think the renovated Target Center ranks? And what do you like? What could be better at Target Center?
Oh, it's a great question to think about. Let's see. So some of my favorite arenas. Before I worked in Minneapolis, I worked in Indianapolis at Conseco Fieldhouse, and it's a great place. It's it's a basketball community. They did a wonderful job building that arena. It's very easy to get around. It's big. It's spacious, and it's really, really nice. So that's one of my favorites. I love Madison Square Garden, even though it's not a flashy, new age building. I just love the feel of it, and I love the atmosphere going in there, and watching a game there. Oracle is off the charts great. Again, an old building, but one that kind of shakes with the noise, and you wonder about how it's going to transition to Wine and Cheese San Francisco when they do that. But Oracle is definitely one of my favorites. Let's see. Where does Target Center rank? I was having this conversation with someone the other day, and I really think that they did everything they possibly could within their budget parameters to make it nicer, and to dress it up and do what they can. I mean, it's still in the bottom third of the league, just because of the way it was built, the older bones, the space constraints of it. It's not going to be a top of the line arena, especially. I mean, the Bucks are opening a brand new one. Sacramento's opened a new one. The Warriors, like a lot of new arenas that have opened in the last few years and are going to be opening, and it's just going to put Target Center to shame. But I do think that they did a really nice job of making the worst building, or the second worst building next to the Bradley Center in Milwaukee, at least a lot more comfortable to go into. And so they would have to bulldoze it and build a brand new one to get into, talking about where they're in the top, 8 or 10 of the league, but that's not going to happen. So they did a great job with what they had.
From Nathan Dalsing, Cat's going to sign, right? He's got to sign, right? We got into that already. I just thought it was a funny way to phrase the question. From Clay Biker, hope I'm getting that right. Not a huge fan of the Timberbulls movement, but of all the former Bulls guys that Thibs has brought in via free agency, Deng makes the most sense of all, right?
Well, I mean, via free agency, so I guess if you say we traded for Butler.
Right.
I mean, Taj Gibson has been great, so I would put Taj above Deng. But in terms of, yes, the logic of it, of end of the bench guy, not going to rock the boat, knows the system, can maybe help bridge some gaps. Yeah, it all makes sense for a veteran minimum deal. That's not there. It's hard to argue with the logic or with the player and the value that you get there. It just kind of contributes to sort of the meme that the Wolves have become, and Tibbs could care less about that.
Right. Last Twitter question. Once again, thank you to TSR Injury Law, 612-TSR Time, SodaStick.com, Minnesota-themed sports apparel. If you'd like to sponsor the program, reach me at jsouhan47@gmail.com or direct message me, whatever you like. And remember to download before you listen. And thanks again to Brandon Morton, our producer.